Welcome back to the Schmitter's 100 Acre Woods. So, gonna start this video off with a lot of time lapse of getting boards milled up. So there we were storing some red oak beams that we cut on the mill, so we need to get those off to begin with, and we just put them kind of behind the building. Today we're going to be cutting all poplar. So these are going to be boards that are going to be used on a chicken coop for rebuilding. I think I mentioned in another video how it's going to be rebuilt. The building that was there is going to be torn down, and then there's going to be a little bit different configuration. It's all going to be made out of boards that we cut, and then also going to have 1x6 siding that's going to be put on. So I hadn't gotten a list at this point of exactly what was needed for the construction piece, but we knew that we're going to need 1x6s for the outside. So we go ahead and start by getting those cut, just because it's something that we can start kind of getting turned out, get these logs turned into boards, and then work on getting more logs in. So this is a fair size piece here. It's about 30 inches, I believe. And we got through a couple cuts and saw that the blade was pretty dull, so we go ahead and get that blade switched out, just so we don't end up with any wavy cuts and end up with a lot nicer boards by doing that. So we attempt to rotate, and there's just too much log there and not enough us to get that rotated around. We could use the tractor to figure out a way to fashion that, but figured that we wanted to figure out kind of another method. So because we'd let this down on the one side, we go ahead and kind of just recheck, make sure we have it back to kind of where it was at. And then we'd end up taking a 6-inch chunk off the top of this tree. Basically just bring the forks over, and then we slide that on. So it's just a 6-inch chunk because we want 1x6s. Having that 6-inch, you can just turn it up on its side and then start going through and doing the 1x's. So with a big piece of that gone, we're now able to rotate just 90 degrees, and then we'll just kind of keep doing 90s to get our cant. So here we kind of do a piece, and then we come down a little bit and do another one, and then that will be a board that we can later on go through and cut into a 1x6. And again here, because we want 1x's, all these are going to be 1x material. So we're getting down to where you have about 12 inches or so that whenever you rotate, we'll be able to get two 1x6s out of it. And then just continue getting this cant done. Now getting more reasonable pieces, and we did do another 6-inch chunk that you see over on the forks. So we have a couple of those that we'll mill up once we kind of get this cant done. And again, this is things that we do kind of on the weekend or for a couple hours after work. So kind of the amount of time we have to put into this kind of varies. And you can see there the light's kind of kicked on, so it's starting to get a little dark out. And as we get closer into fall, you know, it starts getting dark earlier, so that's where it's nice having the lights and everything on this building. We'll be able to continue working, you know, until 7 or 8 o'clock, and still have light to be able to do that. Since we got all the 1x's done, we are going to go ahead and cut the 6, so they're about 12 inches tall, or just over. So we take a little bit off and then cut them in half to have 2 stacks of 1x6s. So we get a little bit cleaned up there behind the mill. Have a big pallet that the sawmill actually came on, so we're utilizing that, and that's where we're going to kind of stack these boards just as a way that's nearby but out of the way, and we can then take the boards from there, put them on the forks, and bind them together. The binding is really helpful because you can pick it up with the forks, they all stay together, and then since we're having to put these on a trailer and take them a few miles away, it all stays together and you don't have to worry about it going anywhere. You saw I had that big log that was on here. So basically, it was about 30 on the big side and 26 on the small side. What we did was we kind of actually quartered it, and we did that more just for the fact of us being able to handle and maneuver that log around. And then we're basically trying to get 1x6s, so these are all going to be boards that are going to go for that chicken coop that I had mentioned before in a previous video. Pendle Farms, so he wants to redo his chicken coop, rebuild that. So these are poplar logs that we got from his farm where there was some storm damage. So we still have this one to cut up. Here's what we got cut up. We have 32 here that have been milled to 1x6s, and they're ready to go. And then we have some here that we cut as 1 inches that still have the bark on it, so we'll go through and do like we've done on the other ones and straight cut those to get rid of the bark, and we'll get between 1 and 2 out of some of those depending. So the 32 there, we will get about another 13 on those, and then another 10ish here. So in total, just a rough estimate of about 250 total that will be needed just for the siding, and then there'll be some erroneous pieces that will be needed made, but just as a rough estimate, just from figuring the size of the building and figuring the coverage, it's about what it will be. So with this one log we'll get about 50. We have another one that's a similar size to that one that we'll be able to get some more out of, so we'll get a pretty good start on getting these cut. And so far not too much waste. Have this little bit here, we'll have a couple pieces from that, and then just little strips here from those. And this is the other piece of poplar we have that's a big piece. We have a smaller piece right up here. A couple of the pieces in there, I don't remember exactly which piece is which now, but we have a couple more pieces of poplar there. We'll be able to get some of that cut up. Obviously nothing quite this big. So this piece here is kind of on the smaller side, 22. And it's kind of got this oblong shape to it, about 30. And taking chunks off. What we ended up having to do, like why we have this 6-inch piece, is we ended up having to take a 6-inch chunk off of it, so we could even like rotate it around and get it maneuvered, just because it was so big. This piece will be kind of interesting because there is this kind of big chunk right here that may end up kind of causing some issues. So I don't know, it's definitely a lot smaller down here than it is there, so we'll just have to see how that works out when we mill. But get this going next and get it cut up and just start cutting 1-inch pieces out of it. So I got that one flipped up, and like I mentioned, start getting the 1-inch pieces cut out of it. So go ahead and level it up a little bit just to maximize kind of the center of it. Wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but kind of eliminates a little bit of the waste. So once I have that camp made, can then just kind of get the simple set and just continue this process of cutting 1-inch boards. So there, finally got enough of them to where I had to take a few away so they didn't hit the corner of the sawmill there. And then that last one, just making sure that I don't hit anything. Whenever you just keep going like that, you get a fair amount of sawdust collected. And I guess it's the one kind of surprising thing, I guess, that we knew we would have sawdust, but just the amount that you get from that. We've been taking some of it to the 100 acres and putting it in an area to kind of get some organics back in the soil. And then a lot of it we're just kind of putting in the woods to let it decay there because we just have so much of it. So once I get all those cleaned off, go ahead and continue stacking stuff over here. You can kind of see the number of boards we have. Just working on getting that. So once we got that one board done, I'll go ahead and get this log on the mill as well. Kind of try to get as much of a similar type of wood, like poplar, and size together as possible. So we try to combine as many 1-bys together, and then whenever we do 2-bys, kind of put all the 2-by material together so that whenever he goes to unband stuff, it's kind of what he needs all together instead of having the 1-bys and 2-bys mixed, because he'll need them at different stages. So then we go ahead and just continue this process for this log as well. We go ahead and do the same thing as far as cutting a 6-inch path. So here what we're doing is actually taking an axe and cutting a little bit of the bark off, because the debarker, the way that the mount is and everything, 6 inches won't allow it to swing in and cut that path. So some of these were skidded out, so they have a fair amount of dirt on them, so we want to go ahead and get that cleaned off. So we do that, just kind of help save the blade. We got that 6-inch piece off, so down to a reasonable size to something that we can actually cut or rotate. And here's just kind of a look at that log, and then the 6-inch piece that we cut off. And then do the same thing here. Check to make sure this pit's centered. Typically if it's within 1/2 inch or so, we don't mess with it. If it's anything over that, then we'll work on getting it centered up. Having 2 people is really beneficial on a couple of standpoints. So one, for rotating a log, a lot of these bigger ones, I don't know as you'd be able to do with 1 person. Even if you could physically rotate, a lot of times you have to kind of get a new bite on the cant hook to get enough leverage to rotate, and just with 1 person that can be challenging. And then also having a second person, you can have 1 person that more or less stays on the mill, and then another person that can be getting the slab wood off that is going to become firewood, or moving boards like this. So kind of helps to have a couple people, and a third person could be helpful, but we make do with what we have. So obviously here this is sped up, but once you get that cant done and you're just trying to cut 1-bys, it goes really quick. Okay, so from that main section of tree, you got another 14 there. See some of the ends of this one are a little rotten, but there's still a section of board there that'd be good. Oh, so if you need shorter pieces. So getting a pretty good collection here. There's a few more over here that we can cut 6-inch chunks out of, like we have for the bottom ones. So have a few of those that we used to get down, so we had a little bit bigger piece here to mill up. And we still have 2 on the tractor here that are 6 inches thick that we can go through. That one already has a square side, so we'll be able to square up the other side and then just mill. Probably get about 7 or 8 out of that one, and then about 10 out of this one, depending on where exactly that bow's in at. But something like this we can actually handle and maneuver, whereas the other pieces are just so big. So having one person, even on the smaller piece here, can be a little bit of a challenge to get it moved around since it is fair size. But just do some measurement checks, make sure that I'm not going to hit anything, and then wait just a little bit for the mill to warm up before going full throttle. So typically get the mill started up, tension the blade a little bit, may let it rotate a little bit, and go about half throttle, and then finish tensioning the blade. And once I have that, I can then start cutting these off for the 1x, and then have that other 6-inch slab that's on there that I'll pull over and work on next. Now it looks like after I got this put on the mill, I forgot to set up the camera to show the cutting of this one, but it's the same as the other one, so we'll switch to another log. Okay, another poplar on the mill. This one's not quite as big, it's a little bit longer, it's about 14 feet. So I think we're going to make boards out of it as well, just because we're going to need so many of them. We do have more poplars over there, and they're getting a list together of like 2x that they need. So now here we're kind of being repetitive as far as, you know, having kind of the same process over and over. But I guess kind of what I'm trying to showcase here is how many boards or logs it takes to get the number of boards we got. So in total we ended up like with 100 boards from these trees that we cut up. And then whenever I start stacking, you can kind of see what that stack looks like and how much work goes into it. So, you know, you see some of these big production places that are obviously able to crank out a lot more boards and have a really good process set up. Obviously, this is something we do as a hobby and help friends out. So, you know, it takes more time, but just kind of trying to showcase kind of some of what goes into that. And like this is a tree that had a lot more knots in it, you can see. So that goes through to the center. So these boards aren't quite as nice as some of the other ones and had a lot more waste on these just because it was an odd size and had these knots on it. And a lot more because of that, with the heavier waste, not able to just carry some of that stuff away. But again, once you get to this stage where you're able to just start mowing through the 1x's, it goes pretty quick. Again, I had to take a couple boards off so I could finish up the bottom boards. So after we get these cut up, we'll then be working on getting everything stacked up. So I got the forks cleaned off and then just start stacking boards, and we run through and try to make a whole bunch of stickers as well from any material we have. Kind of had various things going over there behind, to where, you know, it was material that we kind of cut thin and we had talked about making stickers. So we went ahead and did that, got a little portable table saw out so we could cut some of that stuff up pretty quick. And whenever you start stacking lots of material like this, go through quite a bit of stickers. We typically do between four-ish, and kind of see what that equals and how that's about 100 boards there. Okay, so we finished milling up that other poplar we put on. So we have 100 boards here that are packaged up. We'll take these over and eventually pick up some more poplar to mill up some more lumber. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to film any of the drop-off, but I'll get some more of that in the future. So hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.